behind, so actually he's going to be able to pick this off and possibly even back out of here. Oh, nope, he's trapped. There's no way he's getting out of there. And oh, the siege tanks, it's a massacre, just destroying. Siege tanks are so fun. I love siege tanks. They remind me of like World War I artillery. You know, just like these massive cannons that are just bombarding, you know, Marines in the trenches kind of thing. Like these siege tanks, it's so cool that you developed artillery for the game. Like I think that's just absolutely terrific. But now he's just going to run through, and oh, you do not want your siege tanks first. If you're going to blitz their force, he was not expecting that army to be there. If you're going to blitz your force, you need to make sure your siege tanks are in your back, your Marines are in the front, and that you just run forward, your tanks siege up as soon as you get into range. And it looks like, yeah, he's going to go for it. Again, the siege tanks from the front, though. His army's got weakened already, though. I don't know if this is going to be too effective. Oh, he's going to be able to break through. How much more does Thorzain have left? Actually, Thorzain's a little weak on forces. Looks like he might be able to go through. He's not going to be able to kill him, but he's going to be able to deal some decent amount of damage here. He's probably going to be able to take out that starport. And I'm thinking... Yep, he just has to spread out his Marines just a little bit, and the siege tanks will be able to defend against them. You can see their range there. Boom, boom. Blasting apart the Marines. As soon as those Marines are taken out, though, he's probably going to be able to shoot the siege tanks to death and clean this up. More reinforcements from Select. Not sure if it's going to be able to take them out. He's probably going to elevate her back up again in the medevacs, and there they go. Setting the siege tanks back up for part 2 of the attack. This, the Vikings should take a pot shot. Finish it off. There you go. Marines fighting against each other. Siege tanks blasting at each other. And yep, he's going to have to withdraw the starport, get that out of there, make sure it's the vulnerable buildings aren't taken out. These Marines are just taking hits from siege tanks and being healed. Not really sure why a medevac. You know what's really interesting thing about medevacs is that you can heal units not while they're inside of them, only when they're on the ground. Which is kind of interesting that it's like hard to do it when they're actually like there with the medics. I don't know, I guess the little white laser beam doesn't aim inside. It's got some sort of like fixed rotation. We also see Thorzain as a planetary fortress over here, and is in fact getting a 4th base. Meanwhile, Select just took his 3rd. However, his 3rd is going to be on the gold, and he's got a strong position to just defend this gold. Oh, but these Marines are going to just be blasted apart. Yep, they're gone. And he just gets medevacs out of there. Siege tanks, though, in a terrific position. This is a great place in which they can be able to defend this entire area, and it's very hard to move up and attack this area. You can't get right next to the siege tanks, which is what you want your Marines to do when you're assaulting siege tanks, is get as close as possible, because of course the siege tanks have the minimum range. Looks like he's going to do a little bit of a drop, possibly going to go, yep, over to the expansion, which he's probably spotted, or possibly seen flying, or possibly he's just trying to drop on this expansion up here. We see them just scanning each other, a little, I don't know, a clock, I guess, moving rapidly. And he's going to be dropping in 2 places at once now. He's got his forces over here, which he's, yep, he didn't see it. The planetary fortress is going to finish, though, so it's not going to matter. Meanwhile, we've got these forces being dropped off. Going to jump in, going to shoot a bunch of SCVs. Those poor SCVs with the little gas going to be destroyed. Poor innocent miners. And actually, oh wow, that was an incredibly ineffective drop. All I did was trade a medevac for nothing. That's never a good trade to make. Meanwhile, these Marines were able to be taken out primarily, but they were able to sit back there. That siege tanks just blast them to death. Boom! And 2nd shot. Boom! Goodbye. And 3rd. Goodbye. One more Marine back here. And at some point, presumably Select will move that medevac out of there. And I'm still going to park it there for a little while. And Andy's just going to be able to push the main here just by elevating it, which is quite effective. It's really hard to move once these armies get set up, especially when it's on the cliffs like this and it's 2 segmented forces. It's really hard to be able to attack this in the Terran versus Terran, which is what I was talking about in terms of it all being about positioning, right? Like, as soon as these siege tanks get set up, it becomes very hard to assault these kinds of positions, although some Terrans are quite good at it. And yep, we see these siege tanks getting blasted apart. Fun fact is that siege tanks with their range of 7 actually outrange a planetary fortress by 1. So we're going to try to make sure. These appear to be just taking out the factory. Factory might not get repaired. We'll keep it selected just to make sure. These SCVs are trying to repair this. These forces are probably just going to go down. There's too many Marines here, and they're force targeting the factory, the planetary fortress anyway, so that's not going to make much of a difference. They're not going to shoot at the Marines, which they need to shoot at. He might be just trying to expand his push here. It's going to be a little bit difficult to expand it beyond these 2 current siege tanks, which are spotting. And of course these medevacs right now, which are spotting for the siege tanks, just blasting her out. Yep, and the factory was in fact healed. And, oh, he's able to assault the side. got a little bit too spread out within these positions. That's what you got to do when on the Terran versus Terran, is when you're attacking, you got to make sure you attack only a segment of the army. If he's got his entire army all together and sieged up, it's going to be very difficult to take unless you have a huge advantage, either a huge upgrade advantage, which in this case, by the way, Thorzain is up by 1-1. He has 1 more armor and 1 more weapons, and there's nothing on Thorzain, on select siege tanks, and he's moving in. He's going to be able to attack here. Oh, this might not be a good idea. He's going to be taking a lot of damage here, although these siege tanks, so he's going to be able to attack the front, top as well. And yeah, actually it looks like he is going to be able to barely break through. He needs to run the Marines right up next to the siege tanks. Run them up, run them up, run them up, run them up. I don't know why he's not running them up. He could have taken out those siege tanks, so it's not going to matter though. There's the rest of these siege tanks are going to be able to take them out. And they're just going to be doing little regular cannon firing. Boom, 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 boom. Although, nope, they're going to siege up as a couple of Marines came down, and siege tanks that are sieged up are not very good against Marines, especially those with stim, and if they're being healed. Anyway, siege tanks who are sieged up are much more better, and those Marines decided to do a little double take there. Last double take they'll ever do. They got blasted apart by those siege tanks. Moving in, we see he's just going to target, force fire the siege tanks, or at least he should be. There you go. And he's going to be able to finally chase Select back. Select Bear are now on 5 bases, although he's only mining from 4 of them. Well, really only 3 of them. His main is already mined out, and his natural is mostly mined out as well, as you can see from the mini-map. Meanwhile, Forrest is open. The SCV parade! The SCV is excited to come out and party. SCVs are going to have to pay for that one, though, because these tanks are about to siege up and just blast the schniggins out of these Marines. But the Marines are luckily able to catch a couple of unsieged tanks, and now they're going to be able to blast out the planetary fortress. Got to be a little careful with those medevacs, make sure they're not taking any more hits. And we've got a medevac just flying around for basically no purpose, unless he dropped that I missed, which I don't think so. Meanwhile, looks like these guys are just going to sit in a row. He should probably move a medevac over, take out the missile turret, and then he can sit on the planetary fortress. There you go. Oh, the Zelnaga Watchtower going to do the exact same thing, and he's going to be able to take out the planetary fortress and these 3 supply depots as well. I'm not actually quite sure why Select built the supply depots there. It is good to keep them separated so that an opponent who drops on you can't just, take out all your supply depots and make you completely supply blocked. But you don't want to put them in a place that's too dangerous, so you got to make sure that they're very separated. We see a drop going into the main. Sorry if I missed a bit of that. They're able to move up and deal a decent amount of damage here. Not as much as damage as was able to done by Thorzain, or by Select when Select was sieged up in Thorzain's base. Although he's dealing, being able to attack the production facilities. Which, by the way, the secret to defeating a Terran is stopping their production facilities, because all their units have to walk out. They can't warp in like the Protoss players. So if you take out their production facilities, or you're sitting near their production facilities, you can kill all of their new reinforcements while they're trying to come up. And that siege tank obviously didn't like that. He probably owes him money or took his girlfriend or something, because he just gave him a little shot just to be like, hey, bud, you know who's boss. Yeah, you need to listen up. We see a little attack here. This possibly is going to be able to take out the command center. Probably not, though. I would say, because there's only 4 Marines, Command Center is going to be able to get away, the siege tanks are going to be able to protect it, and these SCVs are going to run up here to their deaths, but we're not watching this because there's another battle over here, just to make sure this Command Center was taken out, and this is great positioning for Select here. Look at that, that is terrific. Able to blast apart all of these siege tanks. And, oh, he's just had to move up because of the attack in the main here. Wow, there's just a lot of attacks all around. The battle's going around. I need to watch the mini-map a little bit more carefully. And this is dealing a lot of damage. He's going to be able to run in here, be able to just start attacking the supply depots, and Select is actually getting a good game out of this game because there's no way he's going to be able to, without any reinforcements, because the Marines are just destroying everything, and with his siege tanks divided from any other potential forces that he's going to be able to have, and because this huge group of siege tanks, he's just not going to be able to deal enough damage, and Select realized he was way behind. He only has, this is his only mining base. He's got all of his mules here, so this isn't very mined out, but it could be in the future. So Select decides to GG out of it. He's going to lose this game, and so we move on, in fact, to Game 3, and it's going to be on iCup. It's going to be on iCup. Oh, no, I believe it's on Test Bug, actually, but we'll see that very soon. This is PGL Milncraft signing off.